Dedicating the memorial at Gettysburg, Abraham Lincoln said of America, "We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure." Those words are true again. I believe that we are again engaged in a great civil war, a cultural war. It's about to hijack your birthright, to think and say what lives in your heart. I fear you no longer trust the pulsing lifeblood of liberty inside you, the stuff that made this country rise from wilderness into the miracle that it is. Let me back up a little. About a year or two ago, I became president of the National Rifle Association, which protects the right to keep and bear arms of American citizens. I ran for office, I was elected, and now I serve. I serve as a moving target for the media, who called me everything from ridiculous and duped to a brain-injured, senile, crazy old man. I know I'm pretty old, but I sure Lord ain't senile. As I've stood in the crosshairs of those who target Second Amendment freedoms, I've realized that firearms are not the only issue. No. It's much, much bigger than that. I've come to understand that a cultural war is raging across our land, in which, with Orwellian fervor, certain accepted thoughts and speech are mandated. For example, I marched for civil rights with Dr. King in 1963, long before Hollywood found it acceptable, I may say. But when I told an audience last year that white pride is just as valid as black pride or red pride or anyone else's pride, they called me a racist. I've worked with brilliantly talented homosexuals all my life, throughout my whole career. But when I told an audience that gay rights should extend no further than your rights or my rights, I was called a homophobe. I served in World War II against the Axis powers. But during a speech, when I drew an analogy between singling out the innocent Jews and singling out innocent gun owners, I was called an anti-Semite. Everyone I know knows I would never raise a closed fist against my country. But when I asked an audience to oppose this cultural persecution I'm talking about, I was compared to Timothy McVeigh. From Time magazine to friends and colleagues, they're essentially saying, "Chuck, how dare you speak your mind like that? You are using language not authorized for public consumption." But I am not afraid. If Americans believed in political correctness, we'd still be King George's boys, subjects bound to the British crown. In his book, The End of Sanity, Martin Gross writes that blatantly irrational behavior is rapidly being established as the norm in almost every area of human endeavor. There seem to be new customs, new rules, new anti-intellectual theories regularly twisted on us, foisted on us from every direction. Underneath, the nation is roiling. Americans know something without a name is undermining the country, turning the mind mushy when it comes to separating truth from falsehood and right from wrong, and they don't like it. Let me read you a few examples. At Antioch College in Ohio, young men speaking and seeking intimacy with a co-ed must get verbal permission at each step of the process, from kissing to petting to final, at last, copulation, all clearly spelled out in a printed college directive. In New Jersey, despite the death of several patients nationwide who'd been infected by dentists who had concealed their own AIDS, the state commissioner announced that health providers who are HIV positive need not tell their patients that they are infected. At William and Mary, students tried to change the name of the school team, the tribe, because it was supposedly insulting to local Indians, only to learn that authentic Virginia chiefs really liked the name of the tribe. In San Francisco's city fathers passed an ordinance protecting the rights of transvestites to cross-dress on the job and for transsexuals to have separate toilet facilities while undergoing sex change surgery. In New York City, kids who didn't speak a word of Spanish had been placed in bilingual classes to learn their 3 R's in Spanish, solely because their own names sound Hispanic. At the University of Pennsylvania, in a state where thousands died at Gettysburg opposing slavery, the president of that college officially set up segregated dormitory space for black students. Yeah, I know, that's out of bounds now. Dr. King said Negroes, Jimmy Baldwin and most of us on the march said black, but it's a no-no now. For me, hyphenated identities are awkward, particularly Native American. I'm a Native American, for God's sake. I also happen to be a blood-initiated brother of the Minneconjou Sioux. On my wife's side, my grandson's a 12th generation Native American, with the capital letter on American. Finally, just last month, David Howard, head of the Washington, D.C. Office of Public Advocate, used the word niggardly while talking about budgetary matters with some colleagues. Of course, niggardly means stingy or stinted. But within days, Howard was forced to publicly apologize and then resign. As columnist Tony Snow wrote, David Howard got fired because some people in public employ were morons who A, didn't know the meaning of niggardly, B, don't know how to use a dictionary to discover the meaning, and C, actually demanded that he apologize for their ignorance. Now, what does all this mean? Well, among other things, it means that telling us what to think has evolved in telling us what to say. So telling us what to do can't be far behind. Before you claim to be a champion of free thought, tell me, why did political correctness originate on America's campuses? And why do you continue to tolerate it? Why do you, who are supposed to debate ideas, surrender to their suppression? Let's be honest. Who here in this room thinks your professors can say what they really believe? There's a few. There's a few, yeah. Well, that scares me to death. And it should scare you too. But the superstition of political correctness rules the halls of reason. You are the best and the brightest. You, here in this fertile cradle of American academia, here in the castle of learning on the Charles River. You are the queen. But I submit that you and your counterparts across the land are the most socially conformed and politically silenced generation since Concord Bridge. And as long as you validate that and abide it, you are, by your grandfather's standards, cowards. Here's another example. Right now, at more than one major university, Second Amendment scholars and researchers are being told to shut up about their findings or they'll lose their jobs. Why? Because their research findings would undermine big city mayors' pending lawsuits that seek to extort hundreds of millions of dollars from firearms manufacturers. Now, I don't care what you think about guns, but if you are not shocked at that, I am shocked at you.